everyone, it's Stephanie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a review of Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. So basically all you need to know about the plot of this book is that it follows Lou, who is a witch, and Reed, who is a witch hunter, and they are forced into marriage. And conflict goes from there. I don't think you should know much more than that because the way the plot is set up, I really enjoyed having things revealed to me as I went through the story. I wasn't spoiled for anything, and so I think those reveals were made more impactful by not knowing about them ahead of time. That being said, I would classify this book as new adult. I think that the characters and the way that they are and their affects are more in tune with newer adult versus young adult. There are some content warnings for cursing, and there's some lewd songs and sayings. So Lou is one of my new favorite book characters of all time. She is so bawdy and irreverent and funny and such a strong female lead. I love that in this story her growth and her story and the plot wasn't solely dependent on her relationship with Reed, the witch hunter. And I thought that was such a unique and awesome way to write her, because I think all too many times the romance and their relationship is what drives the plot forward, and one character is dependent on another. And so I really enjoyed the way that Shelby Mahurin handled this. I also really liked Reed. He's pretty much the opposite of Lou. He's very proper and reserved and has such a sense of duty and loyalty to basically his church, which kind of has some Catholic overtones to it, and you can tell that his sense of duty and loyalty comes from a good place. Like, he really, really believes in what he's doing and with the best intentions, if that makes sense. The setting of this book was really cool. It was kind of 17th century era, and it's very French inspired. I don't think it said if it was set in France, but the language, the dress, the atmosphere, the way society and their mores were, it was very French. And so, that being said, with Lou's way of speech, she's very no filter. The banter between her and Reed is hilarious. It's literally laughing out loud while reading this book because it's so funny. And while there is a romance element, I don't feel like their romance was the only thing that was driving the plot forward, and I really appreciated that. There are so many other things going on that intertwine with the romance that it's just such a rich plot line, and it just doesn't rely on the romance, which is just awesome. I also really enjoyed the magic system in this book. Most of the time in a lot of YA fantasy, the magic system has a set of rules, or there are boundaries or limits that it can't break. And usually those are pretty set in stone early on in the series or in the book. And in this book, it was really interesting because the magic didn't really seem to have any limits or boundaries, and the magic itself kind of varied by the witch that was using it. The one rule that I did notice was it's kind of based on equivalent exchange, where there's a cost for using your magic. So you might have to sacrifice something, be it something minor or something major, in order to use that particular spell or what have you. So I thought that was an interesting way to do that. There were also a few scenes in this book that I felt were kind of not timed well with the plot, or there were some humorous lines that weren't really appropriate for the scene that they were put in. However, while I did notice that, it didn't really take away from my enjoyment of the story. It was just something that stuck out to me. And I also really think Reed is an interesting character because he's very much a product of his time and his upbringing. He kind of reminded me of Jamie Fraser in that he has a very strict moral code, and he does have a sense of duty and loyalty, and he just hasn't been exposed really to new ideas, or he hasn't really gotten to know someone with ideas and beliefs different than his. So the thing I liked about him is that he had a lot of internal conflict that we got to see. He's not just a black and white character, he's very gray. And he learns in this book and he grows just like Jamie does. And I absolutely loved that because, yes, I do know a lot of people say that there are toxic elements to this relationship, but again, it's set in 17th century, and that was completely normal at that time. Not that I'm wanting to justify it, but that was the standard back then of how relationships were supposed to be. And the fact that Reed learned and grew and tried to better himself throughout the story was something that I really loved and appreciated and made me really love him more as a character. The one thing that kind of irked me a little was that I thought the romance moved a hair too fast, because I felt like it was kind of slow burn because they're forced into a marriage. So you know there's going to be some kind of romance or conflict or something. And I just felt like their internal monologue, they began to refer to each other as my husband or my wife a lot faster than they felt comfortable doing it externally, which that's a super specific, tiny, nitpicky little thing. It's just something I noticed. However, that did not take away from my enjoyment of this story. And one of my favorite things was the last line. And I won't tell you what it is, but I will say that it is humorous, and I loved it, and the character who said it just made me love them like 100 times more. It was so cute. So overall, I loved this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I do acknowledge that there's some small things in there that do detract from the overall, for lack of a better word, quality of the book, but my enjoyment of it negated my feelings about that. And I think this is a book that people will either love or really not like, because, like I said, the possible toxic relationship and certain things that are said and done. But I personally loved it. I think you should read it. I think it's a really fun, unique fantasy, and I can't wait to read the second book. So, have you read this? If so, what did you think of it? And what was your star rating if you rate books? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to talk to you guys about it. And as always, if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and click the bell icon to be notified anytime I upload new content, and hit that subscribe button if you want to support my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.